I'm seeing all over the place. You've got Michigan fans attacking Ohio State's advances in the transfer portal. And Ohio State fans, of course, attacking Michigan fans to a certain extent to say, hey, you're just mad because we're just going to pass you on by it again. Okay. I actually commented to a post that an Ohio State fan put on Facebook. So one of the drawbacks to what I do, and this light is way too, we had a light issue here the other night that I've yet to correct. So our lighting has been pretty bad, but it doesn't have to be glowing in my face. So one of the drawbacks in doing what I'm doing is that I'm on social media looking at what is about 97.4% garbage, something like that. Maybe not quite that high. Maybe it's 95.6, something like that. And so I, in particular, to better promote the shows, I've joined about 40 or 50 Facebook groups. Fortunately, I've joined these on my Voice of College Football Facebook account and not my personal Facebook account, because there's no way I could go on Facebook as myself, my own personal account, and have to look at this rubbish all the time. So I've got to be in my Facebook account from the Voice of College Football to see all these 40 or 50 groups that I've joined. And I have no interest in joining these groups. I have no interest in reading what they have to say, because again, almost all of it is just complete nonsense, garbage, a bunch of people that don't know anything. So, but the reason I'm belonging to all these groups is because I want to promote the show. So I belong to about 4 or 5 Michigan Facebook groups, and 4 or 5 Ohio State, and 4 or 5 Miami, and 4 and 5 Iowa, etc. And then I will post and let them know that we've got shows. So I see an Ohio State fan who posted one of my favorite terms of modern day social media presence is the term facts. People state opinion, and then they're trying to convince us of its relevancy by stating facts. And people in our generation, I guess I got to include myself in this generation. I don't know which generation I'm from. I guess most people identify their generation as to when they're like in high school. So I'm obviously not part of this generation. But I'm still here and breathing and alive and doing well. So I'm here to take it in. And what I find funny is that so this particular Ohio State fan was spewing on about how great Ohio State's moves are, which they seem to be formidable. That's for sure. They're all good moves. I approve of all of them. But that Michigan was scared in 2020 to play Ohio State, and that Michigan, of course, cheated, and Michigan, all the reasons why Ohio State lost the last 3 years. And then now it's facts that Ohio State is once again going to take over this rivalry. Okay. Well, first of all, I had to inform the individual. Notice I'm doing my best. I'm doing really well with eliminating certain name calling out of my delivery, out of my communication. So it doesn't please me to do that, but I'm just a little bit better of a person for it. So I just let them know that in this day and age, we've lost a true definition, the definition, and a perspective on a lot of things. But 2 terms in particular have been completely lost on a lot of people. One would be the definition of the word facts, and then the other word would be truth. People no longer understand truth, nor do they understand what the word facts mean. So I'd educate them just a little bit there. And then that, that then typically spurs on some kind of gif that's supposed to embarrass, in this case, me, which is obviously anybody can throw up a gif. And there you go. It goes on from there. So that was just a little microcosm into some of the delusional Ohio State fans that are out there, which there are many, just like every other fan base. And if I would see another 10 or 15 or 20 of these, then I would have to go into my bag of labels, and I would have to, I haven't had to do this for quite a few weeks, but would have to then name Ohio State as the dumb fan base of the day. But I'm staying off social media to hopefully avoid having to do that. So this is how I see it. So on the other side, during our Big Ten Live show last night, I showed where Blue by 90 sent out a post that I thought was assuming a lot concerning Ohio State's pursuit of transfer portal players, making a lot of assumptions about how that's not going to work, and that their aim is just they're so incensed with losing to Michigan that they're just throwing money at the problem. Okay. Part of that might be true, but a lot of it is very flawed in that thinking for a number of reasons. So we're not talking about a program in Ohio State that has been some fledgling program just trying to make it, or has been a program, let's say like Miami or Texas prior to this past season, that has money, resources, and all things going for it, but can't get out of its own way and win. So we're talking about a football program that pre-transfer portal and NIL was doing just fine. And so in the previous world was doing just fine. In the time that we've experienced now, 2, 3, 4 years of the transfer portal era, again, doing just fine, but Michigan has done better. So Ohio State doesn't need to, everyone needs to invest money. So let's start there. Every school that has hopes of winning championships needs to spend money on players. That's all there is to it. Now, we have discussions and arguments at times about the nuance of that and what that looks like, that it maybe is a little bit more digestible to some fans to think that their team is attracting talent the old-fashioned way, the conventional way, by just displaying how good the football program is and by building relationships and showing off the school and all those things, and then bringing the talent in. And then they're securing those players, keeping them on the roster with financial payments, with NIL that they've earned because they have played well at the school. And that's the way it's been conducted. So that's a little more palatable for a lot of fans. And we all need to understand that we don't know what these dollar figures are. We don't know who's getting what. For the most part, some things get out there, and the reliability of some of those numbers is in question. But on some players, we do have some leaks, and we can choose to believe that or not. I don't know. I know that there are some people that cover the sport that have made engaged what type of money is required to keep what level of player at what position. For example, a big time quarterback between $1.5 and $2 million per year, for example. So I really think that both, from what I've seen on social media, which has been a lot in the last 4 or 5 days, where Ohio State and Michigan fans are really going at each other. And in the chat, I'm sure, I haven't seen hardly anything, but I'm sure in the chat as well, I'm guessing. And if you guys want to go at it on the show, please give us a call, whether that's Ohio State or Michigan fans individually that want to ask me questions and bring up this topic, and we can carry this through. Or if you would like to jump on together, we can certainly, I will play moderator. But I'm finding it ridiculous from both sides. I'm finding both sides to be at fault and both sides to be highly inaccurate, or highly flawed would be a better term, in their analysis of the situation. Highly flawed in the defense of their team and in the criticism and targeting of their rival. Michigan fans, on the other hand, are defending their culture. And so what can't be debated in all of this is who's won the games, who's won the championships, meaning Michigan. And what can't be debated is that that their culture has largely been at the forefront of that renaissance. And culture is a vague word. It's a word that's difficult to get a hold of. It's certainly a word that is talked about in corporations and organizations. And I think we all have a different idea or thought about what it means, what it is. To me, let me try to define it. I did not process this before, so this is going to be my definition on the fly. Culture in college football, as it relates specifically to our sport, culture is the character, the integrity, and this could be either positive or negative, good or bad, but the level of character, integrity, work ethic, commitment, teamwork, attitude. That is, a lot of those things are intangible things, but they are manifested by the way coaches and players conduct themselves. And Michigan has every right and reason to say that they have mastered culture over the last 3 years. Absolutely. I would not argue that for two different reasons. Number one, I've got nothing to argue against it. And number two, even if I did, it would be foolish to, because I would be grasping at straws or speculating. All right. However, Michigan fans, if they're going to be fair, shouldn't really attack Ohio State's culture, because nothing's proven to be wrong with Ohio State's culture. We just know that Michigan's culture is in a good place. That doesn't mean Ohio State's culture is in a bad place. We've got 133 head coaches in college football. If we knew exactly who was the best, the second best, the third best, the fourth best, the fifth best, all the way down to 133, they could all be good head coaches. Or we could have 10 great head coaches, and the next 40 are good, and the next 30 are decent, and on down the line. And then we could have some horrible head coaches, or they could all be really good. But somebody's got to be the best, the second best, the third best, the fourth best. my take on Ohio State in regards to culture is that there's really nothing wrong with the culture, but it's just not been an overwhelming strength. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't see backbiting. I don't see lack of effort, determination. You know, there was a comment made where did I see this? It was related to something Ohio State in the last few days. It could have been at Ross B. York's news conference, or it could have been somewhere else, where there was a question made or a comment made by someone. And I got to say that outside of watching Tony Gerdeman, Tom Orr, and Kevin Noon on their podcast last night when the Caleb Downs news broke, which I thought, do I want to go back on now and do another? No, I'll just listen to these guys, see what they have to say. We just did a Big Ten live show. We're fine. And it might have been on there somewhere, or it might have been part of this Ross B. York news conference, where sometimes fans are under the guides that they care more than the people actually working. Now, I do agree with or believe this to be true, that there are fans, pick your team, we're talking Ohio State right now, that are Ohio State fans that care more about Ohio State football than pick a number of players on the roster that grew up in Georgia or California or Florida. Yes, they have cared their entire lives about Ohio State football, and their house is adorned with Ohio State memorabilia, and they've gone to 57 different games over the last 10 years and all of that. And this player could care less about Ohio State. Then they were recruited and signed, and now they are getting ingrained in the culture. They like their teammates. They're playing. Absolutely. There's a difference there. However, these coaches, let's start with the coaches, they're professionals. They are working a ridiculous amount of time and a number of hours each week pouring themselves into this. No fan truly cares about it more than the coaches themselves. Just because any coach that you criticize doesn't act like a fool when they lose, and they're not up there bawling and sobbing and crying or slamming their fist or screaming at refs, that to me, to some fans, seems to be the gauge of caring. That also seems to be a lot of people's gauge of passion. That when they see a player score a touchdown and they do a backflip and they go crazy, or they make a big play and they're standing over the guy and going crazy and jumping up and down and all of that, that they have passion. Or if they lose, they're throwing their helmet and they're crying and all of that. They have passion. Now, that could be an indication of it, but that doesn't prove a whole lot to me. All that proves is that they're emotional. They're emotional. There's a difference between being emotional and being committed and passionate about something. The player that does all those things after a good play, bad play, win or loss, are they truly the passionate players? Or is it the player that watches extra game film, lifts weights when the team doesn't require it, helps out a teammate to learn a portion of the playbook or a new defensive scheme, shows up at practice early, shows the team meetings early, participates, doesn't fall asleep? That is true passion and commitment to somebody's somebody's occupation, let's say. So I have seen all sorts of Ohio State and Michigan posts about this very matter because Michigan is the champion, 3-time Big Ten champion, and the national champion. And I'm going to break myself of the habit of saying defending national champion. They're not defending anything. They won't be next year. They're not the defending national champions. They are just the national champion. And then all these teams are going to be playing for a new national championship next year. Michigan will not lose its 2023 national championship unless other things come into play. But they will not lose their 2023 national championship, even if they go 0-12. They're still the national champion of 2023. So they're not defending. It's not a heavyweight belt. But also that Ohio State is buying a national championship, or that they're investing money in NIL, just like every other program in the country, all of them. But certainly the contending teams, yes, they're doing the same thing that everyone else is. And they are also coming from a place where they've proven to build an elite program through high school recruiting. So yes, they've added a few pieces here and there. They've added a quarterback, a running back, a safety, okay, an offensive lineman. That those 4 guys should all start and be major impact players. But and Ohio State's done a remarkable job in recruiting again this cycle. And does that have anything to do with NIL? Yes, it does. Just like every other team in the country. Yes, it does have something to do with NIL. However, Ohio State should probably be the last school in the country, along with Georgia and Alabama, that should be attacked for succeeding only because of NIL. Because who was succeeding before NIL? Has anything changed? No, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. Ohio State is acquiring top-level athletes because the brand and because of the ability to turn them into professionals. NFL players has been proven year after year after year after year after year. And now on top of that, there is a NIL opportunity and there is a competition for dollar signs. And we can all conjecture all night as to how much of a factor that is. And you know what the answer is? The answer is it's all over the place. That's the answer. I guarantee you. They're with everything that I've just stated, it's all logical, but I can't guarantee any of it. But that's one of the things I can guarantee is that it's all over the place, meaning this player over here signed with this school because they offered him one more penny than that school. And that's all he cared about. I made one more penny here than over there. I'm going to the highest bidder. That's it. That's my determination. Now, how many percentage of athletes are making that decision? I don't know. I got to think that most of them are making a combination decision. Hopefully, if their parents have taught them anything and are intervening and having discussions with them and helping them with that decision, then they're taking into consideration, yes, I'm going to make $100,000 here and I'm going to make $85,000 here. But at the $85,000 school, that could change. It could be more next year. And they've produced X number of NFL players at my position over the last 5 years. And I really like where the program's headed, and I am getting a legitimate education, and I kind of like this school better, and they're really strong in this, in my major, and this and this and this and this and this, and it's closer to home, whatever. So I'm going to take X number of dollars less because other things work and fit. But again, to the player who just takes the dollar sign to the dollar and that's the end of the decision, ask yourself, have you taken jobs where you just simply made the most money and you made $1 more here than there, so you took that job? And there is nothing wrong with that. Is it really the college football world that I love and grew up in? Nope, it's not. It's not what I want, but it's fair, it's understandable, and it's their lives. It is their lives and their decisions.